Okay. I did a thing, and it doesn't suck. I wallpapered this wall behind me, and then I painted the walls blue in my bathroom. So, on this little journey I'm on of severe depression, postpartum depression without actually ever having the baby, because I've been through 3 miscarriages and 1 I don't know, potential molar, potential ectopic, had to do, get an abortion because it was an abnormal pregnancy that was putting my health at risk. And so it's been, all of that happened in 19 months or so time. And I was not really mentally healthy before we started the pregnancy journey. We also tried infertility pills. That was a fucking nightmare. So I'm recovering from all of that, finally. I'm still on, my psychiatrist still has me basically being a lab rat to help get me the right cocktail of medication so I don't kill myself, which was a possibility at one point. And I went to the wonderful psych ward called Huntsman in Salt Lake City. Yeah, so it's been a journey. It's been a really tough journey. But I feel good that I just wallpapered the bathroom and I painted the bathroom, and I figured, I came up with, as I've been studying depression, it's something that I've been dealing with since, puberty basically, in a variety of severities, and especially since I've been done dancing, performing, it's really been tough. And the female pregnancy hormones are fucking-sane. They're insane. They're so much more insane than I realized. So a ton of empathy for women that are going through spontaneous abortions and even healthy pregnancies. I mean, it just blew my mind once I started going through this journey. And that's nothing to even speak about the emotional aspects of it, and not just for a female, but for her husband and both of our mothers and fathers and siblings. I mean, it's a journey. It's a whole familial journey that is hard. Anyway, I came up with this list of factors that I have to focus on in my recovery with postpartum depression and, I suppose, grief, and just redefining our lives, knowing concretely at this point that we are not going to be parents, which is a pretty different journey for me and my husband. I never planned on being a mother until I met him, and then he wanted it, so we tried. And you really have to get your brain in that place of like, I don't have a kid for 18 years, you have a kid for the rest of your life. So I got my head there and he was there, and then 4 pregnancies later, and it's like, oh, we're not doing this anymore. It's not, I can't do that roller coaster, and Jake, my husband, does not want to anymore either. Anyway, so now shut the book on that chapter and really focused on getting my mental health back in order. So I made this list of things. Depression antidotes, which are there's 12 of them, which I did not try to do 12, but it was like, oh, this is like, 12 steps seems to be a common number for recovery. Validation, deepening relationships, medical guidance, movement, spiritual health, self-compassion, avoid toxic intakes, routine, honest communication, stress management and rest, laughter, and service and purpose. So this is part of my purpose, is why don't I share my recovery process and see if my story can help somebody else. I don't know, it's pretty cliche, I guess, but if it helps somebody else, then God, it makes it so much more worth fighting for, I guess. The hard thing about depression is it hormonally attacks. I wish it wasn't called depression either, because we use that word as like what's the word I'm looking for? Just a casual phrase, or like, oh, it was so depressing. Like, this movie was so depressing. I wish it was called like neurotransmitter disease or something that sounded more medical, because it is really hard to frame it that way, especially when society and people around you that in your life that love you, even, they just don't understand it, and they think they've experienced the same thing, which maybe they have to some degree, but anyway, I think it would help a lot of us if it were named something more medical. So what am I getting at? What was I getting at here? This part of depression is brain fog, right? What was I getting at? Validation, deepening relationships. Oh, so sharing my story might help someone else and give it more purpose. It takes quite a bit of fight to fight depression, and that hormonally, neurotransmitterly, that's what's being attacked, is your motivation, your fight. You're like, I don't know, you're the very thing it takes to get up and do the things that are antidotes to depression is the thing that it attacks. Let me think of a good analogy. It's like, I know I'm not describing depression to anyone that has it, but because it requires so much relationship and community support, I find myself explaining it a lot to other people. So what's a good analogy? It's like, to turn the lights on, you have to press a switch. You have to flip the light switch. But depression has disconnected the wires behind the switch. So even if you go to turn it on, the light doesn't turn on because the wires have been attacked. And the things that require the wires to reattach are I don't know. Let me work on this analogy. Anyway, I did this project in the bathroom because I'm feeling a little bit better. I felt capable of it. It was a solitary project, which is sort of the only place I feel comfortable in my depression right now, but most of the time when I'm suffering from a bout of it, it's like I just want to be alone. isolation. But it was a project where I was moving and I was doing something that had a real tangible result. It was pretty meditative. It was kind of creative. It was creative because I like laid in bed for weeks thinking about what I was going to do in here. And then it makes my space feel more, I don't know, walking into the bathroom every day is the first place I go. It's where I brush my teeth, or I don't brush my teeth if I'm having a terrible day. And so to come in here and look at something that I did, which I know it's so simple, wallpaper and paint, but it's also not simple, by the way. Especially in a house that was built in 1915 and the drywall is not straight. Anyway, I just felt like, for me, coming in here looking at like, oh, I'm not a complete failure. At least I painted and wallpapered the bathroom in a way that I think looks fun and good. And so, yeah. So anyway, I'm gonna start making some videos, but I suppose the way that I compiled this list is becoming helpful for me, and maybe it can be helpful for other people. The shitty thing about depression is, like, sometimes these things work and sometimes they don't, and I don't know the factors of why they work when they do and why they don't. So they're definitely, like, not gonna work for you, or maybe work for you. All I can do is share my experience. So I'll just talk about validation. That's where I have to start almost every morning, is reminding myself it's not as simple as just get up and do. I have to deal with that wire that got disconnected behind the light switch. And if I tell myself, just turn on the light switch, just flip the switch, it still doesn't turn on the light. So I have to remind myself that it's medical, that it's a wiring issue that requires a lot more than just get up and do. And when I'm taking that message in externally, which is the message we get from society and we do get from a lot of family members, and they're not to blame, they don't know what it is because they've never experienced it. And the best family members are the ones that say, like, can you explain it? Like, what is it like? And then they say, what do you need? You know, all that cheesy, annoying bullshit. But I have to validate myself. Like, I have to do the work first here to know, like, I guess to not hate on myself, to not be like, you lazy piece of shit, you know, to not start that internal dialogue of just being really harsh on myself. So things that have helped, my go-tos for validation when I find myself getting stuck in those thought ruminations about just how easy it is for other people, how I should just get up and do it, just go. When I start telling myself that there's something wrong with me, or that I'm bad or guilty or shameful because of this. So these are my go-tos. I think about the fact that genetics is like 50% of it. So if you are handed down a propensity toward depression and anxiety from your family, it's 50% of it. So that's not my fault. I was just fucking born with this propensity toward this. So that takes care of about half of it, right? And then there's a Brach. She's like a Buddhist meditation. She's so good. Her books are great. Her online presence content is really helpful. She has a talk that she does on depression, and it's 2 parts, and it's a couple hours. If you listen to it once, I've listened to it, a couple times at this point for the purpose of being validated. But she makes great metaphors. She is so validating about how out of control it is, how much of a prison it is. And so I've listened to it enough times now that I just turn it on and go to any 5 minutes of it, and it's validating for me. So Tara Brach, her depression talk. Obviously, my therapist, I will every week ask for that validation. Like, this is harder than society and I think it is. Like, the response I'm getting from people at work, in my friend and family support, the idea that it's selfish, tell me again why it's not those things. I have to ask her. I just make her validate it every time, because thinking of it as my fault and thinking of me as a failure exacerbates it. Even if it was my fault, even if I am a failure, to overcome it, I have to make myself believe that it's not those things. It's not, though. And then the other thing that I do to validate myself is I go to the Mayo Clinic or Harvard. Medical has articles on depression and anxiety. And for some reason, these 2 really reputable places, Harvard and the Mayo Clinic, just those articles that I've stumbled across and the way that they speak about depression and anxiety it's very medical. It acknowledges the lack of control an individual has with it, and these are insanely reputable places that people go to for answers and recovery on everything that humans deal with. That's a problem. And so those are validating places too. Anyway, those are my go-tos. Sometimes if I have a whole day where I'm having a really hard time, I'm being really hard on myself, sometimes you don't even realize it. So that's a process all on its own, is just realizing that you're having these thoughts, that you're taking in all this information externally telling you that you're not keeping up, you're a failure, you should be ashamed of yourself, you're lazy, whatever, all these things. You don't even realize you're taking that stuff in, and then you're owning it internally, and that voice in your head, that asshole, is telling you these things. So once you realize it, then you just have to actively look for validation. The great thing is, these are things I can do from bed. So if you have a phone or an iPad or laptop nearby, and at this point, sometimes all I have to do is pull that list out. I don't even have to actually look those things up. I look Tara Brach, her depression talk, and I know a few things that she said that has resonated with me that are yeah, this isn't my fault. This is a prison. This is way harder than just getting up and doing it, just deciding to do it. My therapist, she'll definitely always validate it with a lot of education and facts behind it. Oh yeah, that Mayo Clinic article, that Harvard article on depression, they obviously know in great detail the medical aspects of it. I'm validated. So that's where I have to start. That's really where I have to start almost every day. And yeah, if any of those resources help you, if that's the first step for you, Just recognizing that shitty bitch just telling you how much of a piece of shit you are, you get to start telling it back, you're a disease. All right, that's it. I painted a bathroom. Ooh, I like it. I'll show you the final product once I get it all decorated. Could be a year from now, we'll see. All right, love you, see you, bye.